Greetings, free thinkers. Welcome to the Hoggcast. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing fine. I certainly am. Okay, what do we have for you on today's episode? We have for you the mother who was targeted by the teachers union. If you haven't heard this story, I'll give you a quick synopsis of what happened. A very prominent member of the teachers union in California made a statement that was egregiously prejudiced, saying that in essence, the only people who want to send their children back to school, public schools, that is, because private schools are still open and have been all year, are white, rich, or white, well-off parents, as if brown and people of colour who have children don't want their children to be educated. What a ridiculous thing for this teachers union person to say. Now, one of the parents who wanted their children to go back to school received a very snarky email by a person from the teachers union demanding to know what racial group she self-identifies with. The reason why they wanted to know is because they wanted, of course, to fulfill their prophecy that the only people who want to send their children back to school, or the only people who are getting upset over school closures, are white parents. That's what they believe. This woman here, who is the mother, is not a white parent. She is of Middle Eastern descent. So she is the woman who got that email, the mother who got the email. So let's listen to what she has to say. She has made a statement to Fox News. So we're going to listen to that now. We'll get into the video. If you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share the video around. This channel is not only demonetized, but it's shadow banned. We don't get the impressions we used to, so it's hard to grow, especially for a small channel like this. So I could do with your help today if you like this content. Okay, let's go. Okay.
Of their race? Not if you ask the president of Los Angeles Teachers Union, who still refuses to send her teachers back into the classroom. She says there's one particular group that's doing all the complaining.
Some voices are being allowed to speak louder than others. We have to call out the privilege behind the largely white, wealthy parents driving the push for a rushed return.
What is a rushed return? How long have we been waiting? The science clearly states that children pose almost zero risk, not only to themselves and each other, but to others as well. That's the science that people such as this lady likes to preach about, but only when it backs up her arguments. Now, I find it hilarious that she's talking about people who are trying to speak louder than others, while she is speaking loud herself. She's literally shouting down the microphone. We'll play it again. She's shouting down the microphone.
Some voices are being allowed to speak louder than others. We have to call out the privilege behind the largely white, wealthy parents driving the push for a rushed return.
What?
That woman is responsible for the teacher. She's big up in the teachers union. If you live in California, she's responsible for teaching your children. Do you really want someone like that? Someone as poisonous as that teaching your children, really?
Only white parents want their kids back in school?
Right.
Does she actually believe that? Sure seems like it, considering the response one parent received from a member of the teachers union. After she tried to complain, the union asked her to prove that she wasn't a wealthy white woman. Quote, "Could you tell me how you racially self-identify or point me to a citation on your identity?" Really? The mother who received this, Miriam Kudra, joins me now for an exclusive interview.
So this won't be long. I just want to say that where the West is heading is not good. You understand that, don't you? This far left culture, which has been allowed to seep into all aspects, not only of public life, which is where it used to have its base, but they've managed to slowly and surely creep into the executive boards and the directorships of private companies, where they've also instilled this far left cancel culture bigotry-driven worldview, right, is seeped into everything. And where the West is heading is not good. And it's not on the fault of conservatives like us. They will project and blame us like they do for everything. They'll blame their failures on us like they do all the time. But where the West is heading is not good. It's heading for something bad. And it's heading for something bad because of the people who are doing this. The people who insist people must be identified and split into different groups based on immutable characteristics, right? The real racists are those types of people.
Interview. Miriam, did you actually receive this email?
I was honestly shocked to be targeted like that, Lawrence. I myself have been a teacher with the Los Angeles Unified School District, and I've been an educator in the public education system. And I never expected to have 1,000 indices to prove my last name and figure out my first name, race, and profiling me that way by my fellow colleagues, my own, fellow teachers.
Miriam, I think what most people say is, who cares what race you are? I don't care if you're white, or you're black, or whatever, brown. The fact is...
On the left, that's outdated thinking now, for the left. To the left now, all that matters is those things you just said. All that matters is your immutable characteristics. Because the left, their worldview is like a totem pole, right? And it has a bottom and a top. And at the bottom, or where you are on the totem pole, whether you're at the bottom, at the top, in the middle, wherever, is dictated based on all of your immutable characteristics. It has nothing to do with your character anymore. Like the way Martin Luther King wanted. Martin Luther King wanted to be judged by the content of his character, and he and his were right up until the early 2000s, when this modern Marxist progressive movement, I've often said that progressivism is just Marxism renamed, rebranded, repackaged. It means the same thing. Progressivism, Marxism, they both do the same thing. The definition of both is permanent revolution. You push and you push and you push. You change one thing, then you change another, and then you keep changing and changing and changing until nothing really makes any goddamn sense anymore. That's where we are. Right? So you could be a person that looks like me, have my immutable characteristics, and you could be a Mother Teresa. You could be the best human being on the planet, the most kindest, most beautiful, charming heart, and you would be at the bottom of the totem pole, right? Because of your immutable characteristics. Your character, your beautiful heart has nothing to do with it. And then you could have someone like that teacher you saw who was projecting and calling out parents, white parents, who wanted, just for the crime of wanting their children to be educated. She would be at the top of the totem pole because of her immutable characteristics. That's the way the radical left works. That's their worldview. You need to understand that.
The kids belong back in the school.
Well, that's the whole point, is that their argument is that if you're calling for a choice, and what I'm calling for is that you have the choice to be able to return if you wish, that equates to your being racist. And I would like to challenge the UTLA to give those wealthy white and Middle Eastern parents a $1 million challenge and see if they will put their money and their labor and volunteer and all their resources into...
So you see these... Sorry to interrupt what you're saying. I just want to say, you see these side images here. These are of teachers' unions and some of the more lemming type people who are out saying, don't open the schools until it's safe, 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 safe. When it's 100% safe. Of course, you and I know that society is never 100% safe. You have to do the best you can and move forwards, right? But these people have been caught, some of them have been caught dropping their own children off to private schools which have been open all the time. And then they come out here and they petition on full pay that you guys in the private sector are paying for. You pay their salaries, and they petition to make sure the schools are closed whilst they're still on full pay, and your children don't get educated. Theirs still are.
For the African American and Latino communities to help those students come to school first and get everybody back in school together.
At the back of that one there, right, so this is the type of thing. So here we have the teacher union types protesting. I'm not sure if you can see this. I might zoom in. So it's got hashtag only when it's safe. That's opening them up. At the back there is defund the police and black existence above that. These are the types of people who have characters that are very bad, but that doesn't matter any more, does it? Because it's only about immutable characteristics now, according to these guys. They're the type of people teaching your children.
Aaron, I've been following this issue all across the country. The effects on children and their mental health. How are your children holding up?
Listen, my background is Afghanistan, and I have seen firsthand what it looks like to deprive a generation of education. And the Taliban would say, well, we're closing the schools right now because of security crisis, because of public crisis. And now you have the UTLA, even Compton Unified is going back, and the UTLA is hell-bent on keeping our schools closed. The kids are suffering, they're being abused, the learning losses are tremendous. The African American and Latino kids are going to suffer earning potential for their incomes. The United States GDP is going to suffer in the long run, and our competitiveness throughout the globe is going to take a hit because of this.
Well, that's what they want. They want the West to take a hit. I just said a moment ago, if you didn't skip through one of my interruptions in what she's saying, I mean, one of the images you had on the other side of these teacher union protests, in the background, you saw one poster that said, defund the police. They're the type of people teaching your children. Do you think they want the West to succeed, really? Do you think Marxists want the West to succeed? They don't. And I never thought in my life, because I love the United States, I really do, I love America, right? It's the most beautiful place on earth. I never thought that an entire generation of children would potentially, I don't know if that's going to happen, I hope not, but it could do, a generation of children would miss out on an education like Afghanistan in the United States.
We have to stand up to the UTLA.
Yes.
We cannot continue to follow with this racial war that they're setting up.
I gotta ask you, because
And that's a very good point. That's what I said very early on in this video. I said that's what they're trying to do. They are setting up, that's what I meant when I said that the future of the West is really bad. It's going to be bad news. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to set up a war of that sort. And we've seen where that goes. We've seen it in Malawi. We've seen it in Bosnia. We've seen it in South Africa, Zimbabwe, right? Where different cultures and groups that were a part of the same country come to blows, right? Multiculturalism's not new. Diversity's not new. It's been tried since at least the Roman era. And by the way, that's what's caused the end of the Roman Empire. The inward migration of people. They went to places like Rome, and they sacked it. That's why the group of people that today we know as the Vandals, that's where they get their name from. Because they vandalized Rome. They destroyed Rome when they were invited in. That's why they're called Vandals. And that's what gives the name, or that's what gives the word its meaning today. If you were to go and break someone's car, you'd be called a vandal. That's where the origin of the word vandal or the Vandals comes from.
as you're an immigrant, does it disappoint you that you come to the freest place in the world and they're not acting like it right now?
This is very familiar to me in terms of being able to reframe what is complete injustice as equity and equality. And so I see it very clearly for what it is, and that's why I'm unwilling to accept it. And there's an entire army of parents just like me who will not any longer accept the UTLA's decision to hold these schools hostage. The entire country is open, the restaurants, the banks, the gas stations, the malls, everything is open. The schools are sitting a ghost town in Los Angeles, and we cannot afford this any longer.
Miriam, we'll continue to follow the story. We're with you, and there's a lot of people in this audience that have been emailing me all week about this story. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
So I will leave you with my last parting words, which are, she's so right when she says that they are trying to repackage a blatant injustice as equity and equality. Now, that word equity is often being popped up. First they brought First they brought their shtick with equality, and everyone wants equality, of course they do. But then they started to tack on to equality this word equity. Beware of the word equity. People who have billions of dollars, millions of dollars, right? Even people who aren't mega rich but earn like $400,000 a year. When they start blabbering on about equity, be very careful, because whatever that will curtail, and it won't curtail something good for you, it won't involve them, right? If equity means you giving up something, it won't mean them giving up something. They will not voluntarily part with their mountain of cash in their bank balance. They won't part with a single gold coin, right? Not a single green dollar. Be careful of that. And she's right when she says that they're trying to repackage, and they are repackaging, injustices with the label of equality and equity. There needs to be more people who have, as she said, have the balls to stand up and defend decency and society and civilization. Because it needs it now more than ever. Because without education, there is no civilization. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.